So, frankly, enormous Warhammer 40K preview today. We've got two major armies entirely redone in plastic in the Kroot and the Solar Auxilia, new plastic Mandrakes skirmishing with their Night Lord foes, the announcement of Codex Tau, and guard players might be interested in new sculpts for the Lehman Russ and the Malcador tank with a bit more of a Heresy era vibe. Loads to talk about, so let's jump straight in. Hello and welcome back to Warspets Tactics, where today I thought we'd do a big roundup of the Las Vegas Open previews. As it goes, this one was really quite a meaty one for the grim darkness of the far future. The vast majority of the releases focused around Kroot and the Solar Auxilia, but I'm kind of surprised at just how many kits both of those ranges got. They've really quite massively fleshed them both out. All of this is coming from Games Workshop's Las Vegas preview show, the one that they did live at the Las Vegas Open, though they were streaming it from Nottingham in the UK. So it's also been a 5 AM video streaming session for those guys too. For the 40k reveals, it's mainly in three main bits. A kind of surprisingly big reveal for the Kroot range, which revealed a new launch box for those, a new unit, and plenty of redone ones, plus the hint that they were getting more miniatures besides this, and the new Codex Tau. Drukari Mandrakes got a new kit, first appearing in Kill Team Nightmare, and they will be fighting those sinister Night Lords there as expected. And then, as teased in the New Year reveal trailer, the Solar Auxilia will be getting a plastic range refresh. And again, honestly, there were perhaps more kits here than I would have expected. Lots of their infantry redone, their iconic Dracosan transport, but interestingly enough, they've released a kit for Heresy era Lehman Russes and a plastic Malcador, both of which could definitely be of interest to Imperial Guard collectors in the 41st millennium. It seems that besides the Solar Auxilia though, we haven't seen the other December teasers yet, like Custodian with the Melter Spear, or the great big Orc Mech character with the teleporting big suit contraption. I was kind of expecting that there'd be a good chance for those this time round, but it seems they'll be saved till later. Let's jump straight in though, and it feels like perhaps the big ticket item for 40k was the new Kroot. There have been a mini army where their figures have been feeling quite dated for quite some time now, and it's often been a bit of a pipe dream for people to have them resculpted in plastic, often making wish lists for new factions to add to the game, and I feel like Games Workshop have basically done this in all but name. They'll still be part of the Tau Empire Codex, but it looks like they've tried to give them enough units that you could credibly field them as an army in their own right. Looks like they might be establishing themselves as a range in a similar sort of size to the Eldar Harlequins. Resculpted today, we've got the Kroot Carnivores, the basic troops, the Krootox Rider, a new unit called the Krootox Rider Rampagers, and two different variations of Shaper in the Kroot Flesh Shaper and the War Shaper. So really quite a generous release for them, particularly when this is on top of that Farstalker Kim band that they already have. Apparently they're going to be getting more than this as well. Games Workshop said that this is about half the new things that are coming for Codex Tau for the Kroot. We know that at least one of them is that cavalry model that we saw in the teaser, and it does seem kind of likely to me that if we're going this far into Kroot Miniatures, then we'll probably get something that's greater Narlock sort of size. I feel like if Games Workshop's redoing the Kroot range in this much style, that one seems like a bit of a wishlist item given that it had a lot of love from the dawn of war games. Alongside this, as mentioned, they confirmed that Codex Tau will be coming. It's first going to be available alongside a big box of Kroot, and it will have a dedicated formation that aims to make Kroot as their own viable army called the Kroot Hunting Pack, which will be really quite cool for people who want to try and collect them in their own right. Let's get into the miniatures though, and first up we have the Kroot Carnivores themselves, 10 models in this box it would seem. These guys are the reimagination of the very long serving kits that we have in the Codex, armed with their standard Kroot rifles and kind of basic miniatures otherwise. Maybe not the worst to not have them massively overcomplicated though, given that they're a sort of haughty troop unit. When I saw that Farstalker Kimban release, I did kind of wonder if we would just be using them as the new reimagined Kroot, but it does seem that they're going to be retaining their role as the veteran squad for the army. These guys are the standard mercenaries on the ground, and they have picked up one extra weapon option in the Tangle Bomb launcher that you can see on the bottom left there. Apparently a blast weapon to add just a little bit of extra firepower to the unit. I feel like they were a unit that was waiting an update for really quite a long time, so nice to see it's finally arrived. But otherwise they haven't really changed things up too much, it's just the same sort of miniatures but sculpted in a bit more detail. Next up there's a couple of characters. The Kroot Flesh Shaper is this one. He perhaps feels like the more standard Kroot Shaper miniature that we've seen in ages past, fighting with hooked blades, and he's apparently in charge of what sort of things these cannibal Kroots chow down on. Kroot kindreds are known to gain strength from devouring their fallen foes, and it'll be interesting to see exactly what sort of benefits this guy brings in game for that sort of purposes. Otherwise, the second new Shaper model is the Kroot War Shaper. This guy looks like he might be the sort of captain style equivalent of the Kroot as their generic leader, and this kit does have a few options as well. You can either equip him with the Dart Bow and Tri-Blade, which is a ranged combo. The teaser article kind of implied that the Dart Bow might have precision, or you can give him a Blade Stave and Prey Hook as a bit more of a melee focused loadout. I guess it could be possible that he could have the captain style free stratagem thing going for him, or maybe just some damage dealing buff to his kindred perhaps. Overall, nice to have some cool Kroot character miniatures here. This guy's got a few aesthetic options as well, including the choice of a head swap that you can see on the left here. Next up, it looks like the Tau Empire might have actually genuinely got a hard-hitting melee unit here. I feel like the Kroot units up to now have generally been okay for skirmishing with lighter infantry, but these guys might genuinely be able to deal with things that are a little bit heavier. These guys are an entirely new unit in the Krootox Rampagers, younger and hot-blooded Krootoxes that are absolutely ferocious and charge their way through to the enemy. Their riders seem to be equipped with pistols, war blades, and javelins that they can throw from these ferocious Krootox backs. Pretty fun miniatures, and definitely play into the weird Kroot cavalry sort of theme that they have going on quite a bit. Seems that between these, the regular Krootox, and anything else that we have come for the Kroot, like that New Year's teaser model, they're going to have really quite a lot of cavalry options, and might even be making the Beast Snagger Orcs jealous. I quite like the look of the miniatures though, look really dynamic, like they're just hurtling towards you. A whole load of Xenos muscle ready to rip and tear. The teaser article did give us a few hints as to how they might function in game. They did confirm they do get at least some ranged attacks with their javelins. I guess kind of close range though, and might be somewhat akin to the Squighog boys as they charge into melee. When they attack in close combat, they get 7 attacks on the charge. I still feel they might be more helpful for dealing with sort of Space Marine style equivalents as opposed to anything heavier than that. I just can't imagine that they're going to be a unit that has tons of AP. Otherwise, they also confirmed that like a lot of cavalry or biker units, there'll be 3 to 6 per unit, so you could field a fairly big meaty squad. And my guess is that perhaps the New Year teaser model might well be a character leader for these guys, though I guess we'll have to wait and see on that front. Would be kind of cool if they could pick up leaders with enhancements. Finally, for the actual major Kroot miniatures revealed today, we've got a new and much upgraded sculpt for the Krootox Rider, again a miniature that's been showing its age for a long time. This one does confirm that the rumour engine was spot on in that it showed the new version of the Kroot gun. Apparently that one might be rebranded a repeater cannon, and the other option for it is the Tangle cannon that you can see on the left. Compared with the fast-moving and more dynamic Krootox Ravagers, it looks like this guy's a more mature Kroot, pretty enormous and hulking, and perhaps looking a little bit bigger than his previous counterpart. Loads of muscle there, and it's certainly picked up a bit more ornate style compared with the previous one. They both appear to have given him a whole bunch of bangles and done his hair for him. Perhaps feels a little bit in common with what ornate war elephants might have had on Earth, perhaps. In any case, that looks like a fitting resculpt for a miniature that's really needed one for some time. Apparently the first way that we're going to be able to get a hold of these is this Kroot Hunting Pack box set, one of Games Workshop's classic sort of launch set box sets like the Dark Angels Deathwing one that we've just had. This one contains 20 Kroot Carnivores, 1 big Krootox with the gun, 3 Krootox Ravagers, and there's 2 Shapers that we've just had revealed. Looks like the Alien Auxiliaries really are taking front and centre in this Tau release, as this is apparently going to be the first place to get the new Codex. If this is priced kind of similar to the Deathwing box, I suppose this will be £135, around €175 or $220 for all these Kroot miniatures plus the new Tau Codex. Speaking of which, it maybe does feel a bit weird that the new Tau book will be in this box set first. I can't help but think that this is going to be a box set that really pleases some people, but maybe isn't quite as exciting for others. I feel like not every single Tau player wants Kroot as a major element of their army, though I'm sure some will jump at the chance. In any case though, it's really cool to see a niche 40k faction get quite this much love, and I think it is pretty intriguing to think what other things might be coming for them. They did repeatedly say that this was about half the range for the Kroot coming. I guess otherwise we might get a centerpiece model, that cavalry perhaps character, or it could be another cavalry unit. I guess it would be good to have the Kroot Hounds redone in some way, and otherwise hopefully the other branch of the Alien Auxilia don't get neglected. I feel like if they're doing a big Xenos Mercenaries sort of release, the Vespid would be a good one to add in there too. Before we move on, I think I'll take the early decision to say that the big new Kroot launch box can be the channel giveaway for March. I've still got the Deathwing one outstanding for the February giveaway, but I'll commit to making this one the March one, seeing as it seems like a fun new box with a whole bunch of miniatures and a new codex. This one will be for 6 different people to get a copy of the Kroot Hunting Pack box set. As per normal, for the Auspex Tactics channel giveaways, there's 2 different ways to enter, both linked down in the video description. Either you can support the channel on Patreon for any amount, that gets you automatic entry every month, or support on social media completely for free. For the social media entry option, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the Facebook page, and then actually enter the draw on the post that appears on the 1st of March. Respond to the giveaway post with a photo of any 40k mini or imagery, along with your name and the date handwritten within the same photo, the last bit just to deter Facebook bots and spammers. Then for these giveaways, I do the draw with a random number generator and announce the winners on the channel update video around the 4th of March for this one, though it's the 4th of every month normally. And if there should be any delay on Games Workshop actually releasing these, the boxes will be posted as soon as I receive them. I do try and keep these box set giveaways coming each month, and at time of recording there's still plenty of chance to enter for the Deathwing Assault box set for the February giveaway. The rules for that are exactly the same, but it's the Deathwing box set, and that one has February instead. Back to the miniature reveals though, and let's get on to Drukhari, and another big wishlist item ticked off are the Mandrakes, which are now revealed to be coming in Kill Team Nightmare, facing off against those Night Lords. The Mandrakes are the shadowy and sinister Drukhari, striking from their shadow realm and phasing in and out of existence, hacking luckless enemies down with their glimmer steel blades, and having the unnatural ability to cast balefire to immolate enemy infantry. I think that the new sculpts for these are very nicely done indeed, preserving the same sort of character as the old ones, but thankfully being updated from a resin kit to a plastic kit. The resin one was kind of notorious for the blades being all warped and not coming out very well. At least in the Kill Team set, there looks like there'll be 10 in the box. I do kind of wonder with these whether or not there'll be 5 in the box when they eventually release, or they will indeed come out as 10. I genuinely could see them going either way on this one. It does look like they have some arm and head swap options, though it looks like the legs are copies of each other, and there's 2 sets of 5 here. In any case, really nice to see the Drukhari actually get some attention. There's a whole bunch of kits in the Drukhari range that were in fine cast resin and then just went out of production. It was the Mandrakes, Grotesques, Court of the Archon, Beast Pack, and Urian Rakath, and this gets them 1/5 of the way to restoring their range to what it should be. In Drukhari armies in 40k, they're at least fairly commonly played. They infiltrate up the board and have the ability to fade in and out of existence, and that allows them to move around the board and potentially jump around doing secondaries or take the fights to enemies on home objectives and try and kill any light objective holders there. Otherwise, it looks like they maybe have a few more weapon options within the unit as well, which is kind of fun to see. I'm sure they'll all have connotation for the Kill Team game, which they're being released for at the moment, though I suspect that the war gear options might translate over into 40k somewhat too. The one with a sort of shimmering, rippling shadow type thing is called a Shade Weaver. I guess it might get an improved save or confer some sort of -1 to hit on the unit, I guess. I believe that the one in the centre is called the Night Fiend, with an augmented sort of balefire claw thing. And one of them gets a really quite big 2-handed silvery blade with some balefire on it. That might well have a stronger weapon profile than the rest if we're lucky. Overall, really quite a fun resculpt for these guys. Nice to see them coming out of the shadows. In Kill Team Nightmare, they'll be facing off against the Night Lords kill team that we saw on the last preview. Again, I think people are really quite hyped for these guys. Great to have a Chaos Legion actually getting fleshed out properly in 40k and not just all the attention go to Heresy. Out of the Kill Team releases, I feel like this upgrade sprue is perhaps one of the single best that they've done, really adding a whole load of Night Lord's character with only a few minimal upgrades. I feel like there's no major loss to keeping the rest of the kit kind of similar for the standard Legionaries. I feel like they really look the part with their bat wings, a few extra things like lightning claws, a unique missile launcher, and of course some guy who's been flayed a bit then hung on a standard. These two will be coming together in the Kill Team Nightmare box set to start with. That's to be 20 models in total, and they're packaged with this Generatorium terrain piece. That one's aimed to be going with the rest of the Beta Decima Kill Team Aquaworld sort of terrain, though as I said in the stream, I think it could fit in very nicely on a Warhammer 40k battlefield as well. A nice bit of kind of generic Mechanicus style machinery, and quite a fun bit for a somewhat big bit of scattered terrain. The previous kill team was $130 US, €105 or £80, and that was really quite a nice price for the models contained, I thought. I feel like they're probably kind of sensible in keeping the miniatures and the terrain separate, and it means that the people who are individually interested in either the miniatures or the terrain can focus them and get that bit, rather than having to try and pick up everything bundled together, which I think did put at least some people off. Otherwise, could still be really quite a long wait till actual individual releases of these. We still haven't had either the Scouts or the Striking Scorpions yet, so it could be really quite a long wait until we get either of these squads individually. Finally though, and kind of surprising to have two different small armies launched in one preview session, we have the kind of expected arrival of the Solar Auxilia for the Horus Heresy, though I feel like the model kits here could have a lot of interest for 40k collectors for a few different reasons. Either way though, I think that a lot of these are really quite fun miniatures, and basically represent raised mortal soldiers fighting against the Space Marines in the Horus Heresy, are far from on the same level, but able to make up for things with heavy firepower and weight of numbers. The Solar Auxilia are an elite fighting force within the Imperial Army, and kind of a precursor to the Imperial Guard, though they are much better equipped than normal humans in the 40k setting are, with more powerful las rifles and void armor, and they already have a resin range within the Horus Heresy range, though a fairly dated one at this point, and I feel like it was ripe for Games Workshop updating to plastic. These guys were perhaps particularly expected given that they were clearly visible in the teaser trailers around the new year. Plus, even before that, the Legions Imperialis release did give us a bit of a clue, particularly with new units like the Ethon Heavy Sentinel here. In any case, the range release for them really is quite big. They've got their basic infantry in a las rifle section, an infantry tactical command section, an Ethon Heavy Sentinel, a Dracosan transport, two different patterns of Heresy era Leman Russ, a plastic Malcador, and an infantry storm section. From the New Year's teasers, we know that there's another Sentinel pattern making its way around it. The one that was teased in the New Year teasers was not the Heavy Sentinel, it was a regular variant, and given that they're perhaps some of the more iconic models in the range, I'd be amazed if the Charonide Ogrins didn't get a plastic release as well, particularly given their prominence in Legions Imperialis. In any case, you can play them as either loyalist or traitor in the Horus Heresy. I feel like lots of them could have some very good use on the battlefields of the 41st millennium, either as standard Imperial Guardsmen, perhaps being quite nice miniatures to represent Traitor Guard perhaps, and certainly the big tanks in plastic, particularly the Malcador, I'm sure will get some people excited. Going through the miniatures bit by bit, and first up we have the las rifle section. The las gun's really quite different in appearance to the Imperial ones in the 40k setting, and I must admit I do quite like the bulky look of the void armor. Sinister and somewhat industrial helmets produced en masse. Looks like, as with a few other Heresy era box sets, they come in a big squad of 20. It could actually be kind of interesting if they're at a cheaper price due to this. It could weirdly make them as one of the cheapest ways to pick up Guardsmen if Games Workshop does do similar things to what they did with 20-man boxes of Space Marines and charge them a little bit cheaper than you might have got for a 10-man. Otherwise, there's a Solar Auxilia Tactical Command section, kind of like the precursor of the Command Squad in current era 40k. There's an officer, box operator, and standard bearer, as you might expect. Otherwise, there's a Velataris Storm section. These guys look like they're armed with Volkite weaponry for a little bit of close range punch. Hopefully should have a bit of luck against punching through some Space Marine armor, and they can also apparently be equipped with axes and things too. It sounds like the axes do come in the same kit as well, though for some reason they didn't choose to show off any of the images of them, or at least not that I saw in their stream or trailers. Otherwise, we've got the big and lumbering Ethon Heavy Sentinel. This one did seem like it was almost certain to get a Heresy era release as soon as they showed it off for Legions Imperialis. Pretty up-armoured compared with the modern era 40k one, and a bit more big and lumbering with a single big gun mounted centrally, plus some rocket pods on the side. Looks like there's a pretty heavy amount of different gun options here. Looks like there's options for melter, volkite and multi-lasers and things. And it appears that there's two different options for rockets that you can stick on the side of them as well. To be fair, I'm sure people who know the Horus Heresy rules better than I do will be far better placed to inform on that. Otherwise, their iconic transport tank that's been reimagined is the Dracosan transport. This one's really quite up-armoured and comes sporting a demolisher cannon, so it's definitely no pushover in terms of firepower in itself. Again, Games Workshop don't really seem to be too shy about releasing the really big plastic tanks and things for the Horus Heresy setting. We've had quite a lot of them so far. Speaking of which, there's two different variants of the Leman Russ battle tank here. It's kind of cool that these could really easily be used as an alternative option for the battle tank in Warhammer 40K. A different sort of styling, and they're certainly not holding back on the rivets here either. It's got those sort of roll bar type things on the back to ensure the tank doesn't fall into trenches as it rumbles on over them. For use in 40k, the only thing that might be a bit of a letdown is that it doesn't look like these guys come with sponsons. I believe the Heresy, Elegoo and Russes don't tend to run them. And otherwise, for weaponry, the kits are divided slightly. You have the option of several different more longer range weapons here. The Heresy era battle cannon, the Vanquisher cannon, the Exterminator auto cannons, or the Annihilator las cannons. And then packaged individually with the other one is the more close range options for the majority of them. The Demolisher cannon, the Volkite weapon, and the big plasma cannon. There's kind of an interesting take on a tank commander here as well, directing fire from his monitor. Finally, for the big reveals, it looks like we've got a mighty Forge World beast made into plastic. I'm sure plenty of 40k fans might be kind of interested to see a Malcador heavy tank turn into a plastic option. This one's basically generally felt like a bigger brother of the Lehman Russ, mounting essentially a battle cannon but bigger, and having a good array of different sponson options from things like las cannons or heavy bolters. Given that this one was a Forge World miniature previously, it does seem kind of likely that it will heavily go down in price compared with what it was being sold for before, and could be interesting if you wanted to run this for a 40k army using the rules out of the Imperial Armor Compendium. I must admit, given what happened to the Space Marine Forge World stuff that happened to be in the Horus Heresy setting though, I would bear in mind that there's at least some chance that Games Workshop could phase it out at some stage, though of course that will be met by a lot of unhappiness with Guard players. They did showcase all the options on this thing as well, including the different turret options to build the various variants of Malcador. As with a lot of other Heresy era variants, it comes with a very generous amount of sponson options, and one of the variants does sport the mighty Demolisher cannon. Again, these guys seem to be launching with a launch box called the Solar Auxilia Battle Group. Looks like this one comes with 20 las rifles, the command squads, the heavy sentinel, a Heresy era strike Russ, and the big bad Dracosan transport. The Dracosan's modelling a twin las cannon option here, it would seem. Hopefully it won't be too long to wait for this one. Will be interesting to see the prices, whether or not it's a similar sort of price to Age of Darkness. I might hope that this could be a bit more on the sort of Battle Force sort of pricing, though I guess we'll wait and see there. Overall though, I'd rate this as a pretty impressive haul for 40k in the Age of Darkness. Let me know what you make of the new Kroot, the new Mandrakes, and the Solar Auxilia. Quite a lot of new miniatures coming all in all. Though I guess we're going to have to wait and see for the future for the Orc War Boss and Melter Custodian and the rest. As mentioned, if you are interested in entering in for the Kroot giveaway, feel free to check out the channel's Patreon or Facebook page down in the video description. I guess I'll be announcing the results for that on the 4th of March. And just in general, if you have been enjoying the videos on the channel, feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics if you'd like to see more like this. I will certainly be trying to cover Games Workshop's news and releases whenever they come out. Finally, if you have been enjoying all the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention that the Patreon page does have a few other advantages as well, seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things come next on the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with a chance to win some big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support, the link is down in the video description. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.